Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review and rant on the 2016 action film End of a Gun. And calling this an action film is a stretch because there's barely any action in this movie. There's maybe a few shootouts, maybe 3 or 4 scenes involving Seagal kicking or punching somebody, and one explosion. And that's it. And before I go any further talking about this film, I want to give a special shout out to Thomas for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link for both will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to the request as soon as I possibly can. Now, End of a Gun is directed by Keoni Waxman. And Keoni Waxman is a guy who, out of 27 films that he's directed to date, has only directed one worth of shit in Sweepers with Dolph Lundgren. So that just shows you the level of directing that you get here. Also, he's a guy who, for the bulk of his filmography, has nothing but shitty Steven Seagal films on his credits. So yeah, this is not a guy who's gonna deliver, let's just say, the goods when it comes to an action film from a directorial standpoint, and he doesn't. He didn't any of the other times that he directed Seagal previously, and he sure as hell doesn't here. His direction is so stiff that he might as well have been replaced by a wax figure that they just decided to give a camera to, because there's no difference. The direction is static. It doesn't really have a lot of energy to it. It's just as lazy as the film's star and Steven Seagal. The action sequences are not thrilling or exciting to watch because there's nothing that's being done creatively or interestingly when it comes to the direction or the camera work. It's just a very lazy, boring looking film, which is fitting for a film that is incredibly lazy and boring. The screenplay, it's not much better when it comes to the quality. In fact, it's just as shitty. And Keoni Waxman is a double offender now because he also co-wrote the film along with Chuck Hustmeyer, a guy who to this point in time has only written 2 other films. So that just shows you that you're not getting quality writing here. And with Keoni Waxman, surprisingly, he manages to do a bad sweep because the only other time that he wrote a film that was worth anything was also Sweepers. Like, how? What are the odds of that? That a guy who wrote 18 films to this point only has the same movie that is honestly at all watchable. It's crazy. So yeah, the script here, it really sucks. And the worst thing about it is how lazy it is, how uninspired it is. Also, how laughable some of the dialogue is, which I'll get to later. But yeah, it's just another film where Steven Seagal plays a former federal agent. For some reason, my brain cannot put Seagal and former federal agent in the same sentence without fucking up. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because my brain is getting tired of seeing the two correlated with one another, and I don't blame it because it's such a common occurrence. He was yet again playing another character, this time a guy named Decker, who was a member of the FBI or the CIA or the CSI or the NRA or the KFC or the MLB or the NFL. And this film was so bad, I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Seagal had the crew sign an NDA so they wouldn't talk about how bad this film is to anyone who decided to ask, or that Seagal wound up giving the entire female crew an STD uh, because he's just that bad. of an actor at this point. He's so bad he'll give you an STD. Yeah, just a really really lazy, uninspired garbage screenplay where Seagal plays another former FBI agent. This time around, he's a mall security guard, which that's something you didn't really see. I mean, that would have been kind of fun to see Seagal as a mall security guard, but you're not gonna get that because there's no way that Seagal is ever gonna allow that to happen with his ego being as large or larger than his waistline. Um, but yeah, he plays this former federal agent named Decker who runs afoul of this drug kingpin, and there's this girl who yeah, Lisa Durant, no relation to Durant from Darkman. I wish Larry Drake would show up in this movie. um that would be a return of Durant that I would rather see. Larry Drake would show up as Durant and just beat the ever loving shit out of Steven Seagal, and then the movie would be over. Like, I would see that movie. That would be better. He puts Seagal at the end of a gun. Um, but no, we just get Lisa Durant, who is this woman who is clearly just trying to manipulate Seagal, but for whatever reason, he just goes along with it. She tells him about this stash of money that was taken from this kingpin and enlists his help so she can get it. And the script predictably ends with Seagal's character Decker getting involved in a showdown with the drug kingpin by the time the credits roll. But for some reason, the script also has these just really idiotic, dumb moments where Seagal's character Decker speaks some philosophical bullshit with narration, like he's providing some wise words of wisdom, and it's beyond laughable and idiotic. And then, speaking of idiotic, the dialogue in this is so bad and so dumb. I mean, here are some of the lines from this movie. I I just I can't believe some of these fucking lines. So you have this character named Gage. He's commenting to Seagal's character Decker. He says, "You've got balls," and Decker's like, "Thank you for noticing that. My girl here, she knows that for a fact." Or how about this one with Lisa Durant? What am I supposed to do then? Make cookies? And then Seagal's character Decker, he actually says this line: "I love the fuck out of cookies." Yeah, of course you do. Of course you love the fuck out of cookies, Seagal. That's why you're so fucking fat. Maybe stop eating all the Chips Ahoy, you fat fuck. So I love the fuck out of cookies. Or this one with this guy named Gene, who's a friend of his. It's like, listen to me, how long have we been friends? And Decker's like, back when you was dumb, full of cum, and had a fucking full head of hair, and you were about 50 pounds lighter. Like, I did not have Seagal saying young, dumb, and full of cum on my bingo card. I mean, wow. So yeah, this dialogue also sucks. And when it comes to the plot, there's just so much of the plot that's relegated to this stuff with this kingpin guy and Lisa and this eventual double cross with Lisa and Durant. And Decker. Sorry, got my names mixed up. And I'm like, who gives a shit? We know what's going to happen. And the screenplay tries to make it all into this allegory about how you should trust your friends, and anything that involves money is likely gonna end badly or some fucking bullshit. Like, if you just are in it for the money, you're gonna wind up at the end of a gun. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And for an action film, there's not really much action in it. There's a couple scenes where Seagal shoot some people, but it's the kind of scenes that last maybe 30 seconds to a minute. There's some moments where Seagal's character Decker fights some guys, but it's also very short. And then there's like one scene near the end where a car blows up. And oh yeah, there's also that moment where Decker fights the knife guy, because there's a knife guy for some reason who's a member of the Kingpin's posse or gang, and the guy isn't even given a single line of dialogue. Like there's also like this whole other gang of characters that is introduced at some point in the script. There's like this Asian guy with a cowboy hat and this other douchebag, and they don't serve any purpose whatsoever other than to get either shot by the Kingpin out of frustration or get killed by Decker and his buddy, his pal, Jean or the fuck his name is. Um, so yeah, just an awful script with barely any plot to speak of and no depth to the characters. And if the action was exciting or fun to watch, then I could look past the laziness of the screenplay. But that's not the case. So, this is just another frustrating nothing story when it comes to a Steven Seagal movie that goes absolutely fucking nowhere. And it's something that you will 100% forget about by the end of the day. And we look at the cast here. Of course, it's headed by Steven Seagal, but this is Steven Seagal not in his prime. This is Steven Seagal during the Big Mac era, where his ego became fatter than his waistline. And I hate watching Seagal in this era because he doesn't give a shit, and as a result, I don't give a shit. It's just difficult to watch Seagal be like this because he's just so fucking lazy, and he has this accent that comes and goes, and it's annoying. Where once again he sounds like he's trying to be from Louisiana or trying to sound black for some reason. It's like, you're not black, Seagal. You're a white man. Cut it out. This is fucking ridiculous. And speaking of ridiculous, he's got this shitty looking goatee, and then he wears these tinted orange glasses. Like, he seems to think that that combo is cool. And I believe he genuinely thought that way. These lenses that are carrot orange, he felt that those were cool. That those were badass. And I'm like, no, Seagal, you look like a lame ass. You don't look badass, you look like a lame ass. Those fucking things on. Fucking metrosexual looking ass. What the fuck? So, yeah, he's got these fucking orange sunglasses, his orange tinted glasses on, and this just shitty looking goatee that clearly was let's just say brushed on. He definitely had a full supply of just for men uh, uh, available for the shoot. And yeah, it's just such a lazy, unwatchable performance because it's just you better be careful or you're gonna wind up at the end of a gun. And don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. It's like you're already a fool, Seagal, because you're still thinking you're a legitimate movie star at this point. I honestly feel Seagal did us all a favor when he decided to go to Russia and be a Russian, because now we don't have to deal with his fucking fat ass anymore, disgracing television screens with his noxious, odious presence and his just shitty acting ability. He's not even someone you can enjoy watching when it comes to the fights, because so much of the time he's not even the one doing the fights. So many of the scenes in this movie, when it comes to the fight scenes, just involve Seagal there for like a little bit, but then there will be a cut, and then you will clearly see somebody else off screen kicking a guy or punching somebody. There's maybe a couple moments where you see him actually doing the fighting, but most of the time you don't see him do anything. And it's clearly somebody else. I will say it's better than some of the other films that I've seen him in when it comes to there being less obvious stunt doubles, but there's clearly still stunt doubles. And I find it so funny that Seagal apparently said to the press, whatever press there was for this piece of shit, that he did all of his own stunts, including dodging bullets. I'm like, no, you didn't. Your fat ass isn't dodging any fucking bullets. Give me a fucking break. Come on, man. I dodged bullets for real. No, you didn't. You didn't dodge anything, just like you can't dodge the buffet. So, shit. So yeah, Seagal sucks in this with his inconsistent accent and his just awful, awful screen presence. And the rest of the cast isn't any better. Jade Ewen as Lisa Durant. She's nice to look at. That's it. If I want someone who's pretty, if I want to see a girl who's attractive, I'll just watch a porn. I don't need to watch an action movie to see a lady who can't act but looks nice. I'm sorry. That's not what I want out of an action movie. That's not the kind of action I'm looking for, if you know what I mean. Florin Piersic Jr. is the villain Gage. I would say that honestly, that guy was probably the best performer out of the entire cast. He wasn't too bad. He wasn't great, but I didn't think he was that bad. He was decent. In fact, decent enough, and he had enough of a screen presence. I honestly wish he was the lead instead of Steven Seagal. That's how bad it's gotten with these Seagal films at this point. You're like, you know what? I wish the bad guy was the lead instead of Steven Seagal. Seems like he's giving more of an actual shit. Jacob Grodnik, who played Trevor, he wasn't much of anything either. Neither was Ovidiu Niculescu, who played John, or Gene, who was Decker's friend, or Jonathan Rosenthal, who played this guy named Luke, or Alexandre Nguyen, who played the Asian guy with the cowboy hat, who for some reason is called Pee Wee. Like, what? Why the hell is this guy called Pee Wee? Is he just that much of a fan of Pee Wee Herman or some shit? Like, I don't get that one, but it was a nothing performance. He's basically an Asian Ken doll. That's what he is, to a T. So yeah, not really much when it comes to the cast or the group of performers. When it comes to the other technical aspects, like the cinematography by Nathan Wilson, it's pretty woeful. The editing by Trevor Marash is particularly bad. But I mean, the editing here, it has these weird moments where all of a sudden it tries to have like this comic panel editing with split screens. And I'm like, this doesn't fit with the tone of this film. It's random. And there are times where it comes in and you're like, this is just distracting. This does not add anything positive to the scene. It detracts from it in a very negative way. And it gives me a headache because I'm like, what is this fucking doing here? Get this shit out of here. Um, this film is bad enough. I don't need to deal with inconsistent editing. Oh, you have the music by Michael Richard Plowman. Yeah, the Plowman sure plowed his way through the score here. A score that is a total snoozer, just like the entirety of the film. The running time lists 96 minutes on Wikipedia. That's not right, unless I saw a version that was missing time. And honestly, if that is the case, good. I don't want to see a longer version of this movie. It was like an hour and 20 something minutes. It was a very short film. And that's like the only saving grace this piece of shit has to me is that it was short. Like if it was longer, oh my god, it would be such an insufferable film to watch. With Seagal, in his just smug presence, thinking he's the coolest, most badass guy in the world, and that his shit doesn't stink, and then dealing with this just really lazy, boring script and just film with just nothing but boring, forgettable action scenes when they do show up on the screen. But yeah, it's one of those films that is so bad that by the time it's over, you want to put it at the end of a gun and pull the fucking trigger. But anyway, thank you for watching my rant on End of a Gun. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.